If you are out there being brave, trying new things, and putting your heart on the line, I can promise you one thing: you will fall. It's not a matter of if, but when. We all experience moments of failure, disappointment, and heartbreak. It is an unavoidable part of a wholehearted life, a life where we choose courage over comfort. For so long, we have been taught to pretend we are not hurt, to get up and brush ourselves off as if nothing happened. We are told to be strong, but often that advice means we should hide our pain and never speak of our struggles, which only makes the hurt grow bigger and heavier inside of us. This book, and this process, is about what to do when we find ourselves face down in the arena of life. It is a guide for those moments when we get our hearts broken, when a project at work fails spectacularly, or when we say the exact wrong thing to someone we love. These moments are not the end of the story. In fact, they are the very middle of it. They are the turning point where we have a choice. We can either let our hurt and disappointment define us, or we can choose to learn from it, to rise from it, and to become a more whole and resilient version of ourselves. The truth is that we are all wired for story. When something hard happens, our brain immediately starts trying to make sense of it by creating a narrative. The problem is that these first stories, the ones we tell ourselves in the heat of the moment, are often not very accurate. They are usually filled with fear, shame, and blame. They are our brain's way of protecting us, but they can also keep us small and stuck. The Rising Strong process is about learning to challenge those first stories and find the truth, which is always more complex and compassionate. So the invitation here is to get curious about your own falls. It is an invitation to be brave enough to pay attention to your emotions and to the stories you tell yourself when you are in pain. It is not about avoiding the fall. It is about learning how to get back up with more wisdom and more courage than you had before. This is not about perfection. It is about practice. It is about the messy, beautiful, and transformative process of rising strong, one fall at a time, and discovering that our greatest strengths are often forged in our deepest struggles. The Rising Strong process begins with a single crucial step: the reckoning. This is the moment we stop running from our feelings and turn around to face them. It is about acknowledging that we are emotionally hooked by something, that we are feeling hurt, angry, sad, or disappointed. We have to learn to recognize the physical and emotional signs that tell us we are in pain. Maybe your stomach gets tight, your face gets hot, or you suddenly feel the urge to either fight someone or disappear completely. These are all signals from your body and your heart, telling you to pay attention to what is happening inside you. In our culture, we are often taught to ignore or numb these feelings. We might grab our phone and start scrolling, pour a glass of wine, or bury ourselves in work. We do anything we can to avoid the discomfort of our own emotions. But as I have learned in my research, you cannot selectively numb emotion. When you numb the hard feelings like grief, shame, and fear, you also numb the good ones like joy, gratitude, and love. The reckoning is about making a different choice. It is about saying, I am feeling something difficult, and I am going to be brave enough to sit with it and understand it. One of the most powerful things we can do during the reckoning is to simply get curious. Instead of judging our feelings or trying to push them away, we can ask ourselves simple questions. What am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? What happened just before I started to feel this way? This curiosity is an act of self-compassion. It tells the hurting part of ourselves that it is okay to feel what it is feeling. It is the first step toward emotional literacy, which is the ability to recognize and name our own emotions. This first step is often the hardest because it requires us to slow down and be still with our discomfort. It goes against everything we have been taught about being productive and staying busy, but it is non-negotiable. We cannot rumble with a story we do not own, and we cannot own a story until we have reckoned with the emotions it brings up. As I often say, you can't skip the messy middle. The reckoning is that messy middle. It is where we find the courage to stop, breathe, and acknowledge the truth of our experience, which is the foundation for everything that comes next. To navigate the path of rising strong, we need a shared language to understand our experiences. Let's start with one of the most important words: vulnerability. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is our greatest measure of courage. It is the emotion we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. It is showing up and being seen when we have no control over the outcome. Choosing to rise after a fall is an act of vulnerability. It is choosing to be real and open about our struggles, and that takes immense strength, not weakness. Another key term is shame. Shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. It is the voice that whispers, "I am bad." This is different from guilt, which says, "I did something bad." Guilt is about our actions, but shame is about our identity. Understanding this difference is critical, because shame thrives in secrecy, silence, and judgment. When we can name our shame and speak it to someone we trust, it begins to lose its power over us. Resilience depends on our ability to move through shame. This brings us to the concept of resilience. Resilience is not about bouncing back to where we were before we fell. It is about learning and growing from our experiences. True resilience is the process of acknowledging our pain, rumbling with our stories, and emerging from our struggles with a deeper sense of who we are and a greater capacity for courage, compassion, and connection. It is about integrating our falls into our life story in a way that makes us stronger and more whole, not in spite of our struggles, but because of them. Finally, we need to understand emotional literacy. This is the ability to recognize, understand, and articulate our own emotional experiences. Many of us have a very limited emotional vocabulary. We might say we are mad or sad when what we are really feeling is something much more specific, like betrayed, lonely, or overwhelmed. Expanding our emotional vocabulary is like getting a new set of tools. When we can accurately name what we are feeling, we are better equipped to understand what is driving our behavior and to ask for what we need from others. Once we have reckoned with our emotions, we are ready for the second step, the rumble. The rumble is where we get honest about the stories we are making up about our struggles. When we fall, our brain demands a story to make sense of what happened. The first story we create, what I call the shitty first draft, is often full of exaggerations, assumptions, and self-protection. It might cast us as the victim, the villain, or the hero, but it is rarely the full truth. The rumble is the process of challenging that first draft. The rumble is about getting curious and questioning our narrative. We have to ask ourselves some tough questions. What is the story I'm telling myself? What parts of the story are true and what parts are assumptions? What more do I need to know to understand the situation and the other people involved? This is not about finding someone to blame. It is about finding the truth. It requires us to separate the facts from the stories we have layered on top of them. This process can be uncomfortable because it often reveals that our initial interpretations were driven by fear and shame. A rumble is a conversation, either with ourselves or with someone we trust, that is dedicated to exploring the story with honesty and compassion. It is about digging into the complexities of a situation. For example, if you get a harsh email from your boss, your first story might be, "My boss thinks I'm incompetent and is going to fire me." A rumble would involve questioning that. Is it possible my boss is having a stressful day? Is there a piece of information I am missing? What are the facts here? The rumble is where we challenge our conspiracies and confabulations. The goal of the rumble is to arrive at a more wholehearted and truthful story. It is a process of reality checking our fears and assumptions. As the saying goes, the story I'm telling myself is. This simple phrase is a powerful tool. It allows us to own our narrative while also acknowledging that it might not be the complete truth. It creates space for curiosity and learning. The rumble is the heart of the rising strong process. It is where we transform our pain into understanding and our shame into empathy, paving the way for a revolutionary new ending. Relationships are, honestly, one of the most common arenas where we find ourselves falling. A misunderstanding with a partner, a conflict with a friend, or even a painful silence with a family member can leave us feeling hurt and disconnected. Our first story is often one of blame or defensiveness. We might tell ourselves, "They don't care about me," or "I'm always the one who has to apologize." These stories, born from pain, can create even more distance between us and the people we love. The rumble is our path back to connection. So imagine you had an argument with your partner. You go to bed angry, and the story you are telling yourself is that they were intentionally trying to hurt your feelings. The reckoning is acknowledging the anger and hurt you feel. The rumble begins when you get curious about that story. You might ask yourself, what are the facts? We disagreed about finances. What are my assumptions? That they think I'm irresponsible. The rumble invites you to consider other possibilities. Maybe they are stressed about a bill you do not know about. Maybe their words came out harsher than they intended because they were scared. The next step is to have a rumble conversation with that person. This requires, honestly, immense vulnerability. You could start by saying, I'm feeling really hurt about our fight last night. The story I'm telling myself is that you don't trust my judgment with money. Can you help me understand what was really going on for you? This approach is not about accusing the other person. It is about sharing your experience and inviting them into a shared search for the truth. It opens the door for them to share their own story and their own feelings. This kind of courageous conversation is how we build trust and intimacy. It is messy and it is hard, but it is the only way to clean up our messes and repair our connections. When we choose to rumble with the stories we create about the people we love, we stop seeing them as adversaries and start seeing them as partners in the struggle. We learn that true connection is not about never fighting. It is about having the courage to rumble with the hurt and find our way back to each other, stronger and more understanding than before. The workplace is another arena where we are guaranteed to stumble. We might miss a deadline, get passed over for a promotion, or receive critical feedback on a project we poured our heart into. These professional setbacks can feel deeply personal, triggering feelings of shame and inadequacy. Our first story might be, I'm a failure, or my colleagues think I'm a fraud. If we let these stories go unchecked, they can cripple our creativity, our willingness to take risks, and our ability to collaborate with others. Applying the Rising Strong process at work starts with the reckoning. It means admitting to yourself, wow, that feedback really stung, instead of pretending it did not bother you. The rumble is the next courageous step. It involves getting curious about the story of failure. Instead of spiraling into shame, you can ask, what can I learn from this? What parts of the feedback are true and helpful? What was my role in what happened? This is about owning your part without letting the setback define your worth. A leader who practices rumbling creates a culture of courage and resilience. Imagine a team leader whose project has just failed. Instead of blaming team members, they could start a meeting by saying, this did not go as planned, and I know we're all disappointed. The story I was telling myself is that I let the team down. I want us to rumble on this together. What were the facts? What were our assumptions? What can we learn from this so we can do better next time? This models vulnerability and turns a failure into a powerful opportunity for collective learning and growth. This approach transforms the workplace from a place of fear and finger-pointing into an environment where people feel safe enough to be innovative and brave. When employees know that they will not be shamed for failing, they are more likely to share new ideas and take smart risks. As I have always said, vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. By rumbling with our professional setbacks, we not only build our own resilience, but also contribute to creating organizations that are more human, more daring, and ultimately more successful. Parenting is a constant exercise in vulnerability and falling. Every day we are faced with moments where we lose our patience, say the wrong thing, or feel like we have no idea what we are doing. In these moments, it is easy to get swept up in a story of failure. I'm a terrible parent. This shame can cause us to either shut down or double down on controlling behaviors, neither of which helps our children or ourselves. The Rising Strong process offers a powerful alternative for navigating the inevitable stumbles of raising a family. The reckoning for a parent might happen after yelling at their child. It is the moment you feel that knot of regret in your stomach and acknowledge, I lost my cool. I'm feeling overwhelmed and guilty. The rumble is when you get curious about that story. Instead of just thinking, I'm a bad mom, you can ask, what was really going on for me? I was tired, I was stressed about work, and I felt like I wasn't being heard. This self-compassion is not an excuse for your behavior, but an explanation that allows for learning. The rumble also involves our children. After you have rumbled with your own story, you can go to your child and have a courageous conversation. You might say, I'm so sorry I yelled earlier. I was feeling very frustrated, but it was not okay for me to take it out on you. Can we talk about it? This does 3 incredible things. First, it repairs the connection with your child. Second, it models accountability and teaches them that everyone makes mistakes. Third, it shows them how to rumble with their own emotions and experiences. By practicing the Rising Strong process as parents, we give our children one of the greatest gifts, the permission to be imperfect and the tools to be resilient. We teach them that falling is a normal part of life and that the most important thing is how we get back up. We show them that courage is not about never being afraid or never making a mistake. It is about showing up, being real, and having the strength to say, I'm sorry, let's try again. This is how we raise children who are brave, compassionate, and ready to rise strong in their own lives. After we have reckoned with our emotions and rumbled with our stories, we arrive at the third and final step, the revolution. This is where we take everything we have learned from our fall and use it to write a brave new ending for our story. This new ending is not a fairy tale. It is a more truthful, courageous, and wholehearted integration of our experience into who we are. The revolution is the moment we rise from our struggle not just intact, but transformed. It is where our resilience becomes a living, breathing part of us. The revolution is about conscious choice. It is the deliberate act of choosing how the story of our fall will end and how it will inform our future. After rumbling with the truth, we can decide what key learnings we want to carry forward. For example, after a professional setback, the revolutionary ending might be, "This failure taught me the importance of asking for help sooner. Moving forward, I will be more courageous in admitting what I don't know." This is not about shame, it is about growth and wisdom. It is about taking ownership of our story. This new ending becomes a part of our life. It changes how we show up in the world. A revolutionary new ending in a relationship might sound like, "That painful argument taught us that we need to be more honest about our fears." Our commitment is to have these hard conversations before resentment builds. This is integration. The fall is no longer a source of shame, but a catalyst for deeper connection and trust. The revolution is the process of putting our learnings into practice, turning our insights into new behaviors. Ultimately, the revolution is about living a more authentic life. It is about aligning our actions with our values, even when it is hard. Each time we go through the process of reckoning, rumbling, and revolutionizing, we build our capacity for courage. We become more compassionate with ourselves and with others because we understand that everyone is struggling with their own stories. The revolution is not a one-time event. It is a practice. It is the ongoing commitment to rise from our falls with more wisdom, more compassion, and a deeper belief in our own strength. The core message of Rising Strong is both simple and profound. Everyone falls. A brave life is not a life without failure or hurt. It is a life lived with the courage to get back up. What separates people who are resilient from those who get stuck in their pain is not the absence of struggle, but the willingness to engage with it. It is the choice to reckon with our emotions, to rumble with the stories we tell ourselves, and to write a new, more truthful ending. This process is not easy, but it is the very definition of wholehearted living. This journey is fundamentally about honesty. It is about being honest with ourselves about what we are feeling, even when those feelings are uncomfortable. It is about being honest about the narratives we construct in our minds to protect ourselves and having the courage to question them. And it is about being honest with the people in our lives, sharing our vulnerability so that we can find our way back to connection. As I've learned, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. The process requires us to face hard truths, but on the other side is freedom. Being brave and falling is a universal human experience. By learning to rise strong, we do more than just help ourselves. We give the people around us permission to be imperfect too. When we model vulnerability and resilience, we create ripples of courage in our families, our workplaces, and our communities. We show others that it is okay to talk about struggle and that there is strength, not shame, in asking for help. We contribute to a world where people are more compassionate and connected. So the next time you find yourself face down in the arena, remember this: you are not alone. The fall is part of the journey. Take a deep breath. Get curious about your feelings and your story. Be gentle with yourself, and then, when you are ready, find your footing, stand up and rise. Your story is not over. In fact, the most courageous and revolutionary chapter is just beginning. The courage to rise again is one of the most powerful forces on earth, and it lives inside of you.